This is where we cut things out.
Well, you're stepping all over my beautiful introduction that I have planned, Tommy. That is Tommy Birch. He is in Connecticut. Ben, the Octopus O'Connell. How long are you going to ride this octopus thing? Like for a couple years?
All year.
Okay. Ben, the Octopus O'Connell. He's in Chicago, Illinois. I am Kyle Garlett in Denver, Colorado. And with this show is All Things Draft.
All Things Draft. Let's go. It's draft time, baby. Favorite time of the year.
Gone with the draft.
Hey, I feel like the #1 draft pick. Get the hat, jersey with my name on the back.
Welcome to the draft.
Draft.
Is there a draft in here?
On a draft day,
I want my #1s back.
yeah, draft day.
I want my picks back, all of them.
Show me the money.
Hey, I feel like the #1 draft pick.
Who's your motherfucker, Jerry? You, my motherfucker!
Phone blowing up like a draft pick.
Show me the money!
The Carolina Panthers are on the clock.
The Carolina Panthers are on the clock. But hey, actually, as we heard in there was some news today. The Cleveland Browns. Let's go ahead and get started right away. Cleveland Browns, GM Sonny Weaver with new head coach Vince Penn. They have traded with the Seattle Seahawks for the #1 pick. All signs point to them drafting Wisconsin quarterback Bo Callahan. But word is that Sonny Weaver really has his eye on Ohio State linebacker Vontae Mack, also on the board. Florida State running back Ray Jennings, Frank the Cushman. Kind of a controversial change in agents here right at the last minute for Cush. He had signed with Jerry Maguire. His bond was as strong as oak, but now word is he's connected with Bob Sugar before the draft. And then, of course, Johnny Utah also on the board. Although he blew his knee out there in the Orange Bowl or in the Rose Bowl. And word is he might drop out of the draft completely and enter law enforcement.
Why would you do that after you gave up so much to trade up to the first pick? Everyone assumed it was going to be Bo Callahan, and at this point, you just got to question everything, man. What's going on? This seems like a completely unrealistic scenario.
He's going to turn that 7th round pick into like 3 first-round picks and get all the guys he wants and basically tell all the other GMs exactly who they're going to have to give back to him. This is an absolute most bullshit movie ever made.
The guy read Art of the Deal. The guy read the Art of the Deal. What he say, what's going on?
Yeah, no, this is an actual real draft, not that garbage that Kevin Costner made. In fact, we do, and hey, we've got the tickers back. We haven't had the ticker for a while. We've got our draft order ticker.
Oh, yes.
First and second round draft order. So feel free to consult that whenever you can. If you're not sure exactly what position, say the New York Jets are picking in the first round. Well, it's 13, right in front of the New England Patriots, the soon to be last place New England Patriots, I might add. Anyway, guys, we're recording this on Thursday, April 13th. We are exactly 2 weeks away from the first round of the draft there at Union Station in Kansas City, where just 2 months ago there was a Super Bowl celebration. And now 2 weeks from now, they're going to be 259 young men drafted to begin their NFL dream. It's exciting. It's great. I love it. Guys, I go back a little further than you guys do. I remember way back when I was a kid in the 1980s, I would pretend to be sick so that I could stay home from school and watch the draft because, of course, it was not a prime time affair back then. It was like on a Wednesday afternoon and some, at the Madison Square Garden, some ballroom there, and it was ridiculously low televised. It was ESPN just trying to fill programming, but I loved it. And that was now damn near 40 years ago. You guys feel the same way about the draft, or is that just me?
Well, I mean, like, as a Broncos fan, talking about these first couple rounds here, man, it's like walking around Best Buy with a maxed out credit card. I tell you what are you doing there? Why are you doing it to yourself? But you know what? I'm excited to be here. Once again, another great episode. I'm excited to be with you guys. And, I'm excited for the draft.
Ben's just going to watch the clip of Russ saying Broncos country, let's ride over and over again throughout the entirety of the first round.
It was a great trade. We won the trade. It was a steal. It was a steal. It was a steal.
Huge steal.
You do actually lead us into our first little topic here, the teams to watch, the teams to not watch. The teams that are probably going to make some of the biggest noise this weekend or 2 weeks from now, the Houston Texans have 12 picks, including 2 picks in the top 12, 3 of the top 33 picks. Look at that. They're drafting 6 guys by the time the 104th pick is drafted. They are going to make some noise. I really like the way this is setting for the Texans. They've already got some good pieces from last year. I think we all are a big fan of DeMeco Ryans as their new head coach. I think at 2, they're going to get their quarterback and they're going to make some noise. I like the way they are set up. The Raiders also have 12 picks, but fortunately, we can usually count on the Raiders to blow about 8 of those picks. So I don't think they're going to make quite the same noise as the Texans. I think we'll probably look back on them and say, they drafted a guy who's C+ on my board at 38. What are they doing? I think
Actually,
that's probably going to be.
What's the over/under on how many of them get charged with a criminal offense?
By what? What's our end date before the season starts? I would go with probably 4. The Patriots have 11 picks, including the 14th pick, and even the Rams, who we don't need no draft picks, or what is it? Fuck them draft picks. The Rams don't have a pick till 36, but they do have 11 picks. Now, Tommy, I know that your boys also have 11 picks. They have a lot of picks, but they don't pick until number 99 after the Texans have already taken 5 guys. So,
you know what the best part about that is, though? All of our great players come out of the second and third day.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, you get 7 more Brock Purdy's this
we get another George Kittle somewhere too.
Well, I thought Kittle was like a 3rd rounder, was he not?
Yeah. Well, we got a 3rd round pick, so that's perfect.
Okay. Well, 99 we're down into the supplementary picks there. It's at that point, but all right. It's gonna be a lot of fun for you on Thursday and Friday. Saturday though, very busy day for you.
Oh, very.
Okay, so these are the top teams, the teams that are going to make the most noise, the teams that are going to make the least noise. The Miami Dolphins only have 4 picks because they got their 1st round pick taken away from them because they meddled with Tom Brady. So Tom Brady not only leads the NFL in career Super Bowls, but also number of draft picks taken away from a team because of things he did. It's kind of nice. Kind of
nice a real stat
there for. Well, he cost the Patriots a draft pick, and he's now cost the Dolphins a draft pick. I can't think of another guy who's done that to 2 different teams. So,
and not only did he lost his own team's draft pick, but he lost a completely unrelated team
he's never played for at all. They lost a draft pick because of Tom Brady.
They were actually his rival for years.
That's the scope of his influence in the NFL. Yes, Ben, you see there the Denver Broncos are second on this list with 5 picks. They don't pick till 67, but hey, you get 67 and 68, so that's nice.
It's not bad.
You know, before the end of this, we may trade a pick for like a new hot dog stand. Who knows? The stuff that we're trading these picks for, it could be anything at this point.
Do some Moneyball type stuff where you trade a pick and then get sodas in the locker room paid for the rest of the year.
Well, I'm thinking that probably George Payton is watching draft day right now just to figure out how he can turn those 5 picks into 3 first rounders. So we'll see what happens by the time the draft starts. Vikings also only 5 picks, but they do have a first rounder, but then they don't pick again until 87. Same thing with the Ravens. They have a first rounder, but then they don't pick until 86. 5 picks also for them. The Philadelphia Eagles only have 6 picks, but they have 2 first rounders, which for a team that just was in the Super Bowl, that's pretty good for them. All right. So those are the teams that we are going to keep an eye on draft day. The quarterbacks, however, this is said to be a pretty good class. There are some legitimate players in this class. Maybe not so much like last year where there was kind of a weaker class. But here we go. CJ Stroud, he is projected to go in the top 5. Bryce Young, also top 5. Anthony Richardson, top 10. Will Levis, top 20. Hendon Hooker, who I really like. I hope that he does come back from his injury and plays well. Tanner McKee from Stanford. We're getting into people here that maybe not everybody has heard of. Malik Cunningham out of Louisville. He's a very good athlete. Max Duggan with TCU played really well in the the Bowl Championship Series. We'll see if that improves his stock at all. He was okay at the combine, but he's projected to go between the 3rd and the 5th round. Jaron Hall out of BYU, Aiden O'Connell from Purdue. And there you see the rest. We got another Fresno State guy perhaps getting in the mix there. I don't know. I haven't been impressed by the last couple of Fresno State starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, because that goes so well. Am I right?
But at least this guy's name isn't Carr, so maybe he will be better than the rest of the group.
The disrespect to Dorian Thompson-Robinson right there, the only quarterback that you didn't speak his name. He's a dog. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a dog.
No, I do like him. The reason I didn't is because I forgot what his first name was. Because as you can see, he's just D. Thompson. Yes, I watched at least 3 UCLA games this year, and I was impressed. But yeah, I forgot his first name.
The only reason I know him is because every 49ers draft page is talking about how they want him picked in the 5th round. So
do you guys need another quarterback to the mix?
I mean after what happened last year in the playoffs.
Oh, I guess when everybody gets hurt, yeah.
I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
Need to carry 4 quarterbacks. Well, let's go to these guys who are then at the very top. No disrespect for Mr. Thompson-Robinson there. I hope that he finds a great NFL team and thrives in his newfound career. But he's not going to be one of these first picks. This is the odds to be the first overall pick. Now, these have flipped. When I first made this graphic, it was 2 weeks ago, and C.J. Stroud was the favorite. Now Bryce Young is the heavy favorite at minus 360, Stroud at plus 225. Those are really the only 2 guys that have the legitimate chance of being the first overall pick. I'm still a CJ Stroud guy, but right now the odds makers say that Bryce Young is the guy.
Yeah, I don't know about that, to be honest with you. Odds maker and not Vegas does everything to mess with the bettors. I don't trust them at all. CJ Stroud plus 225. I'm sorry, plus money on CJ Stroud. Just I just thrown my money at Vegas at that point.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah,
like come on, like think about Frank Reich. Like what quarterback has he ever coached that is 5'10", 200 pounds? Doesn't fit his agenda. It doesn't. He seems like the type of guy that's stuck in the old ways of, well, those under 6 foot guys can't see over their linemen. You just
well, Will Levis is like 6'3". Does he jump on Will Levis?
Second round pick, and I'll stand by that.
I like CJ Stroud. I mean, I feel like it's a coin flip. I mean, like regardless. I mean, like if it was flipped, I feel like I'd still put a little action on whoever's at plus 225 because I feel like you wake up every day and it's just different. So. I feel like plus 200, anything plus or over plus 200. I feel like that's great odds, for either of them. So, yeah.
I mean, the fact is these guys have just as good a chance of being absolute busts as they do of being good quarterbacks. That's just the nature of figuring out who can actually play quarterback in the NFL. But I mean, Stroud, he's been in a pro style team at Ohio State. Well, not that Bryce Young hasn't been at Alabama, but the quality of the wide receivers that CJ Stroud has been thrown to, I don't know. I just like him. I just think that he's the real deal. But we could have really the top 4 guys could all be great quarterbacks. Well, top 3 guys. Let's not put Will Levis in there just yet.
Yeah, we got
okay
at some point.
Yeah, we will actually. We've got a whole thing about Will Levis coming up. Second overall pick odds. So this is obviously based on the fact that Bryce Young they think is going to go number 1. So he's now paying better odds to go 2. So maybe do a little parlay with CJ Stroud 1, Bryce Young 2. Piggyback that extra action there. Now, so also this comes down to which teams are picking. The Houston Texans at number 2. Do they love if Young goes first? Do they love Stroud or do they try to trade back because they want defense? They're talking about that right now. I think it's a smokescreen. I think it's a bunch of crap. I don't think DeMeco Ryans is stupid enough to think that he doesn't need a quarterback. But right now they're saying we might go defense. Anybody believe that?
No,
No.
absolutely not. I mean, D'Amico Ryans is defense first, but when you have those kind of prospects on the board, like if they're gonna trade down, they're gonna trade down like 4 picks and get Anthony Richardson. I mean, I'm sorry, but they're in dire need, and they're just playing the game right now. The draft, as much as it is about getting talent, it is probably you take 50% of that to scouting talent, the other 50% is mind games. Like
Yeah.
teams are messing with each other. It's one of my favorite
So,
parts of the draft, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's
If the Texans were to somehow take a defensive player number 2, imagine the phone calls that'll be placed to the Arizona Cardinals about moving up to 3 when all of a sudden either Stroud or Young falls to 3. You're going to have the Colts on the phone. You're going to have the Raiders on the phone. You're going to have maybe the Panthers on the phone, all trying to move back. Or not, sorry, not the Panthers. Who moved down again? Oh, the Falcons. The Falcons might call. I mean, all of a sudden that Cardinals pick becomes super valuable if the Texans take a defensive player, although I think we all agree they're going to take a quarterback.
Yeah, quarterback.
All right. So then, assuming the first 2 are quarterbacks, the 3rd overall pick odds, and this is where things get a little tighter. As you can see, we've got 4 guys here that are all somewhat bunched up. I mean, obviously Anthony Richardson is the leader there. But again, that's because, I mean, the Cardinals are probably not going to take a quarterback. So they're going to entertain trade offers. Who wants to move up to take Anthony Richardson with Arizona?
I just, as much as I think that those teams are going to, like the same teams that want Stroud or Young are going to probably make a phone call or even think about it, I don't see a real world scenario where Arizona goes out and trades that pick unless they get a really nice offer. Because, I mean, I think we all agree that if they're out that 3rd pick and they have no choice but to pick a player, they're going Will Anderson. But, I mean, I see them sticking with Will Anderson. Defense is really important, especially for them.
So then you think the 3rd quarterback drops to Indianapolis?
Yes, absolutely. 3rd quarterback, by 3rd quarterback, we are obviously speaking about Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
I don't see Arizona moving back unless they can stay within the top 10 picks. I mean, like, that's kind of in the air. I mean, like, I feel like you could maybe move back with Atlanta if Atlanta is really trying to make a move up or something. But, like, yeah, I don't see them getting rid.
I mean, the teams right now in the top 10 who need a quarterback: Indianapolis at 4. You could say Detroit at 6, the Raiders at 7, and the Falcons at 8. If any of those teams offer up a good enough package, obviously it's the Cardinals. They do stupid things all the time, so they may absolutely do something absolutely ridiculously dumb. But I'm going to guess that somebody is going to be on I've been on the phone with them, I'm sure by now already, but on draft day for sure there will be that will be heating up a lot. There's a lot of teams in the top 10 who need quarterbacks, not enough quarterbacks to go around. It'll be interesting to see what it all happens there. But so our 3rd overall pick, I think it's either going to be, we agree, it's either going to be Will Anderson, he's the best defensive player available, or somebody moves up to draft Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so moving on from that, look at some offensive positions and see where they're picking these guys to be drafted. So the first wide receiver off the board, Jackson Smith Njigba. I had practiced this name, Njigba. He is the Ohio State guy who missed. I mean, he missed all of last year. He's expected to be the first wide receiver off the board, partly because he's at Ohio State. And you could just look, Chris Olave and why am I drawing a blank now on New York Jets? Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. The rookie from last,
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, yes. Thank you.
I blanked for a second. I didn't even know who you were talking about, and I was like,
Yeah.
It's been a long time since football,
But Ohio State is cranking out great rookie wide receivers.
Yeah.
He was out all of last year, but he is projected to be the top wide receiver off the board, paying minus 225. Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Small guy, not very big, not only just short, but also light in stature and short arms, but yet he is still the second wide receiver off the board. Tommy, he's up there in your neck of the woods. What do you think about Zay Flowers?
I've always been a fan. I mean, obviously Boston College is my territory. I've seen him play live. He is quite good, and he's very quick, and his change of direction is unbelievable. Like you see him going, like you think he's running a slant, and then it's like the flash just took over, and it's just a blur, and he's in the middle of an out route almost all the way to the sideline. I think he's a great player. Obviously, like the build is going to be a concern, but I mean, it's not going to be that much of a concern because there's a lot of skill position players in the NFL, even running backs, that are successful at a shorter and smaller stature. So I don't think there's going to be any problem with his transition to the NFL. Maybe the level of play slightly, because Boston College's schedule isn't necessarily the most difficult, but I think he's great.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously a lot of it depends on where he lands too, as to what kind of pro he will develop into.
I am a little worried about him though, for one reason, because the Massachusetts school wide receivers, for some reason, they just aren't always there. I can't remember the guy's name. Played at UMass. He was a shorter guy. He went to Arizona for a little bit.
Oh yeah, shoot, I know exactly who you're talking about. I mean, he was like a second round pick, and
tip of my tongue, but
yeah,
it's just he was like a high draft pick. He was probably second day, and then he just turns into nothing special, And I don't. I don't want to see the same thing happen with Zay because he's a very similar build and very similar film at times. Just worries me a little bit.
Also on the board, Quentin Johnston out of TCU, paying plus 650. Jordan Addison from USC. Of course, USC turns out a top wide receiver every year, paying plus 750. Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, plus 2,500. A lot of people, though, really are high on Jalen Hyatt. They think that he might be one of the top guys off the board. And then Josh Downs at North Carolina. Those are the top 6 wide receivers, all getting odds for being the first wide receiver off the board. This is a pretty
Andy Isabella.
Andy Isabella. Yep, there you go.
Sorry, just
nice job. Nice job.
The depth of my brain. Real quick.
I'm glad you're able to get that because you would have been thinking about that the rest of the show.
Exactly. Can't be focused.
Okay, so this is an excellent tight end class. Two bona fide stars really at the top of the class in Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer. And this too is flipped. Michael Mayer was the consensus first one off the board just a couple of weeks ago. Kincaid is now taking that over. Kincaid, a little better yards after catch, a little more of a playmaker after he makes the ball or makes the catch. Michael Mayer, though, considered to be more NFL ready, like he's ready to step in, the guy at Notre Dame. Now, Tommy, I know that you prefer your tight ends to block and help you get 4 yards versus catch passes and help you get 20. Do you have a preference on these tight ends?
I mean, honestly, they really go hand in hand, and they're probably going to go directly after one another. I think what I've seen from most mock drafts is that, you see late in the first round, it's Buffalo and Cincy, and who picks where. I mean, Cincy just lost Hayden Hurst, and, Buffalo has Dalton, and that's his name, right? Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
Dawson Knox. And, Dawson Knox is a great player, but he's limited at times. And, since he has nobody. So I'm just like, I think that Michael Mayer is probably I think he has a slight edge, but it is really about who has a higher ceiling.
Well, and the thing about, the Bills already having Dawson Knox, the way the position has evolved so much, these are really more pass catchers, and you can never have too many pass catchers. And so what if you already have a tight end? If you add another great tight end who can catch the ball, great. That's just one more weapon for your quarterback. It doesn't matter that he's labeled a tight end. You can move these guys around, have both of them on the field at the same time. It's you never can have too many guys who can catch the ball and then make plays with the ball in their hands.
Yeah, I think that both of them are probably the most set in stone, guaranteed to be somewhat successful in all of the first round. And you can say that about a lot of tight ends because tight end
Mhm.
is a very like, you see, and what you see you get. But these two guys are going to have. I have a good feeling about both of their careers.
Yeah, they're exciting. Like genuinely. I feel like I personally, like, if I were to draft for my like just in general, I like Michael Meyer. I think that he can just get you working a little extra, a couple more packages from the
Mhm.
get-go, I think. But I think the ceiling for Kincaid is absolutely insane. So, yeah, both of them I think have really bright futures in the league.
But a sneaky second day pick in Laporta from Iowa. I just saw clips of him working out with Kittle and Hawkinson. And he's been like talking to them and training them with them slightly consistently throughout the offseason. And having two high profile NFL tight ends from your school, training you and helping you out for the offseason, it could be dangerous. And we could see a sneaky second round, third round pick, Sam Laporta, coming in and taking over.
I mean, obviously, the greatest tight end in Iowa history is Tony Moriarty, and I'm disappointed that you didn't mention him.
Well, Tony Moriarty is not training him this offseason.
I'm not sure what Tony's up to these days. But speaking of high ceilings, Darnell Washington is an athletic freak, but he's caught 26 passes at Georgia. The production has not been there. The guy has all of the physical tools. Are you concerned that he never seems to do anything with those tools?
No, I feel like that's more schematic than anything. We all know Mike Gesicki's good. Doesn't matter how many passes he caught, right? I think it's
so you're pro Darnell Washington then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's worth a first round pick, and I think that he's definitely a project because he hasn't seen like high level like receptions, but you get him a couple passes, he gets a rhythm going. I feel like he could be good.
All right.
Getting catches and getting touches, I think, is one of the most easily solved problems. I think, especially for the tight end position. I mean, like, if you can get the blocking down, if you can get just like the parts of athleticism that you need, you can hit the jug machine all afternoon. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I like Darnell Washington. I think he has a really, really, good trajectory if he gets drafted to the right team. Right? They have to have some patience and know how to develop him.
And he may have been handicapped by the fact that Stetson Bennett was throwing him passes. So.
Yeah, Stetson, poor guy. Stetson went from like a third round pick to basically undrafted in like the matter of a couple of days.
We will talk about Stetson here later on as well. So we've got that ready to go.
Huge.
Tucker Kraft represent though. Tucker Kraft, FCS school represent.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, he's plus 10,000. He's not gonna be the first tight end off the board, obviously.
He's getting drafted though.
he's gonna get drafted, and my guess is that whichever team does draft him is going to be very pleased with the player that they get.
That's a value pick right there. That's a no money spent pick right there.
Yeah. All right. First offensive lineman off the board, Paris Johnson, minus 115. Then there's Peter Skoronski from Northwestern at plus 105. Those are clearly your two best offensive linemen in this draft. Paris Johnson has actually been invited to the draft, so the NFL thinks he's the one who's going to be picked first. I was listening to a mock draft today, and they had the Patriots picking Skoronski at 14. What do you guys think?
I like Paris Johnson. I think that especially just I think that especially early on in the picks, I think going to a big school, a reputable school that's playing like with high level gets you some extra street cred, I think. But yeah, no, I'm really big on Skoronski. Northwestern out here in Chicagoland. So like been watching some Northwestern play, and dude's athletic, dude can move. He's got some really good footwork. It would not surprise me if he went first. So I think the odds are probably where they should be. But yeah. I personally rooting for Skoronski on that Chicago side there.
I mean, I've also heard Skoronski attached to the Detroit Lions, and I think we would all love to see. I mean, Detroit add a stud like that on their offensive line to go along with Penei Sewell. I think they'd be pretty good.
Oh, I'm so happy right now. I have never once been more excited for an offensive line draft I am so stoked because all of those top 4 guys are like have the potential to be superstars. And I've seen mock drafts where you're seeing Darnell Wright going first out of all the offensive line. Obviously, I'm not taking him over Pete Skoronski, Father Bob, grandfather Bob playing. He was the captain on Vince Lombardi's champ teams, come on. I'm so don't even get me started on these guys. I'm gonna go on a rant, but if I'm gonna keep it low key and simple, Paris Johnson has the ability to be a freak in the NFL. If you can really just like tighten up his fundamentals, like that guy is going to tear down defensive lines. And then you talk about Peter, who not only has a family history of high profile football with both of his great uncles played for Harvard, right? Smart guy. He goes to Northwestern, which isn't a bad school. And then his dad played D-line at Yale, right? Yeah, this guy's got crazy potential. He's big, and this guy can move. You get Pete on a pull to the outside, and it's just game over for you. He can seal the edge on you, even if he's behind you a step. Because what he gets his hand out there. He has really long wingspan. He like pounces on your shoulder, and he flips his hips, and it's game over. You're not getting the outside. Like if you want somebody who can seal the edge and protect the running back, that's your guy. And then I'm sorry, but Darnell Wright is just there's not a guy that I think has a higher ceiling. He could be so gosh darn good. I'm everywhere right now, but all the teams, like every team that the one that I look at the most for mock drafts is CBS Sports, right? Just because they're always the first on the Google's homepage when you type in NFL mock draft 2023, right? I think they have Darnell Wright going to Tennessee, which I don't see that happening. But I mean, if you get a Paris or a Pete, going to Chicago, and then one of them goes to Tennessee, like this is game-changing draft picks right here. And I've never been more excited about the fact that there's 4 or 5 guys that could really potentially go in the first round as offensive linemen. Like that just warms my heart. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's time for this.
Tommy watches
film. In case you didn't know, Tommy does in fact watch film. What I love about all 4 of these guys, especially like Skoronski, as you talk about, the guy's an intellectual. He's got just smart DNA in his family. Of course, Northwestern is a top academic school. He's an intellectual guy, but he is one of those guys who wants to play dirty. He wants to be covered in mud and bleeding, and then knock you in the mud. And I think that's the way all 4 of these top guys are. They are nasty. They've got a nasty streak, and that is exactly what you want in a top tackle in this league, is somebody who wants to hit you, wants to put you out of the play, and then wants to hurt you before the next play starts. And I love any of these guys. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch where they start, and then who starts the run. If when Johnson comes off the board, how quickly then do the rest of them come off the board? Do people start panicking? Oh, they're not going to follow us, and that may be where the trades really happen is for this offensive line group.
Because these guys, they have, I think, unless somebody that we don't expect goes first overall, and then second overall, we see like Houston pick a defensive player. Outside of that hypothetical, all the NFL teams in the first round are probably having their eyes on this position group the most out of anybody, because there is so much value in these picks that there's guys that are talking about, like at the end of the first round, talking about, I want defense, I want I don't know, Devin Witherspoon, Joey Porter, one of the corners. The second they see an opening for Pete, it's game over. They're going to try and trade up. A whole draft plan can get busted because of these players. And that's why I'm so excited to watch the first round of this draft, despite the fact that my team doesn't have any first round picks.
Well, you talk about how finding a quarterback on his rookie deal, that's the key to winning a championship. But when you consider the prices now for a top offensive lineman, it's the same thing. If you can get a top tackle on a rookie deal and save yourself, $15 million against the cap because you've got a guy who's a stud but isn't costing you that much money, that, as you said, that is game changing, that is team changing. It changes the culture of a team, and all of a sudden that team becomes competitive because they've got one of these guys. So, I'm excited for this offensive line. And look, if you want offensive line talk, you come to us. You come to NFL Points, Picks, and Props.
Yes,
this is where it is. A lot of people get all fired up about the wide receivers, and this. We got the guys in the trenches who get nasty and dirty and like to knock your dick in the dirt. That's what we are all about.
God, I love football. God damn it, I love football.
How can you not love football? The only people who don't love football are communists. All right. Hey, but if you're a communist listening to the show, thank you so much for listening to the show. We appreciate it. We're happy to have you. All right. Never mind. Okay. Moving on from the offensive line. First running back drafted. Now, we are not going to get into this too deeply because we all know who the first running back drafted is going to be. It's Bijan Robinson. Yes, Jahmyr Gibbs is only paying plus 1,000. You could, in theory, put a bet down on him. We're not going to include the odds for anybody else because nobody else has the slightest, has a gnat's ass and chance of being the top running back taken. It's going to be Bijan Robinson. He is going to be the guy. Jahmyr Gibbs, also very good, not going to be the guy. And then we've got some other good running backs. This is actually a pretty deep class, but there's been such a shift. The days of taking a Saquon Barkley third overall, that's not the world we live in anymore. Bijan Robinson is perhaps as good as Saquon coming out, but Bijan's not going to be a top 10 pick because that's just not the world we live in anymore. But anyway, Bijan, absolute stud, right? We all agree. Whoever takes him is going to be pleased. Jahmyr Gibbs.
The only way that Jahmyr Gibbs gets picked before that's not going to happen. That's like let's say that's like Zach Wilson getting picked second overall. Like that'll never happen.
Yeah. Zach Charbonnet from UCLA, good player, top 50. His projection. Devin Achane from Texas A&M, second or third round. Tank Bigsby, I like Tank Bigsby a lot.
I like his name.
The guy out of Auburn. He's going to be a third or fourth rounder. And Dwayne McBride, man, he has just racked up all kinds of yards there at UAB. I think for his career averaged 7.2 yards per carry. I get it that it's UAB, but still 7.2 yards per carry for the entirety of his career. When he rushed for like 3,700 yards in his career, he's a stud. And whoever gets him in the third or fourth round, definitely worth a pick at that point. All right. That is our offensive picks, top picks for each offensive position. Anybody stand out to you? Anybody that you want to throw out there who wasn't on our boards, or anybody who you think is just highly overrated and absolutely should not? Yes. Tommy Birch. Tommy, you have a question. Go ahead.
I do have a question. Well, it's more of a statement. So this is going to sound almost like wrong, and it's going to be kind of mean because this is my hometown buddy here. So if you guys didn't know, Mr. Will Levis grew up 15 minutes from my house, right? He played football at Xavier High School, which a lot of my friends went to. It's a Catholic all-boys school. And I think he's good, but I think we're fooling ourselves if we think that he's worthy of a top 10 pick.
He did go to Ohio State and sit on the bench for 3 years.
Yes, I mean we could also say the same thing about Joe Burrow, and like he was a really
Fair.
He took his time. So that's like an anomaly though. When I think of the Will Levis production and what we've seen this offseason and how he's gotten so many clicks on social media, it just makes me think of Zach Wilson all over again. A good-sized white dude with a big arm who makes crazy throws on his pro day, and he's like everybody's oohing and eyeing at him at the combine. But at the end of the day, we got to look at his college play. His stats at Kentucky were not great. I think that this is just me personally. You can disagree with me all you want. He should not be picked on day one. I don't think he should. I think that he has the potential to be great, but so did Zach Wilson. There's a really low floor with this guy. And I would love everything in the world for him to succeed. I'm rooting for him more than anybody else. I really want him to be great, but it's just right now, when it comes to potential and when it comes to his baseline level of play, he didn't play great at Kentucky, and that's coming from a Kentucky team that did not play that many ranked teams during the season. And when they did, he did not play well. I think he's good, but he's not great. He's not going ahead of a lot of those guys. And if you think that he's going to be a top 10 pick, good luck. If you're betting on that, good luck. But even better luck if you think that he's going before Anthony Richardson, because I could not see a plane of existence where that happens.
I don't think he should go before Hooker. I think that I think
that's a hot
Hendon
take,
Hooker.
but I love it.
I think Hendon Hooker is I am well aware that I am in like the minority camp on this one, but I think Hendon Hooker is probably one of the most set up to succeed quarterbacks in this draft. I really like Hendon Hooker. I mean, literally, if he doesn't get that injury this year, if he has a full season, are we even talking about him as a second day prospect? No, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm sorry, but if we see Hendon Hooker fully healthy for the entire season and healthy in the offseason, we're talking about a guy who's going to be in conversation for a top 5 pick.
Well, yeah. That game he had against Alabama, he was unreal. It was
best player.
It reminded me of the Texas Tech Oklahoma game where Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield both threw for like 700 yards, where it was just these haymakers being and Hooker was the best player on the field. You're right. Yeah.
You watch these Tennessee games, like if you watch his film, like you cannot like help but just be like, this dude is ready, and screw age, screw injury, screw all this crap that everyone's putting against him. I think at the end of this, there's going to be a couple teams who draft quarterbacks in the first round, and their fan bases will be like, damn, we drafted Will Levis when Hendon Hooker was on the board. You know what I mean? We drafted possibly Anthony Richardson. I'm more optimistic on Anthony Richardson, admittedly, but I think that Hendon Hooker should definitely go before Will Levis. But that's just me.
There is a real world scenario where I could see like past the top 2, even with Anthony Richardson. You know how last year we were talking about all those quarterbacks and who was going to get drafted in the first round, and then basically all of them got drafted in the 3rd round or later. They were talking about Sam Howell being a 1st or 2nd day pick, and he ended up the 6th round. Like, I'm sorry, but I could see that happen. I could see Anthony Richardson dropping, not because he's not good, just because people are scared.
Well, you just look at the teams. I mean, there's all the teams that need quarterbacks are kind of bunched at the top. So if he doesn't go top 10, which he's not going to, he's going to fall out of the 1st round because those teams don't need quarterbacks unless the Texans somehow decide they grab him at 12. You know, maybe they really do grab Will Anderson at 2, and then they've got Hendon Hooker at 12, which wouldn't be the worst draft ever. So, you know, it is. I mean, there's a podcast that I listen to called the GM something or other. It's on the Athletic podcast network. But GM Randy Mueller, who was a former Seahawks and Saints GM, and now he's like the GM of one of the XFL teams, and he was talking about Will Levis. And he said, you know, Will Levis is that guy. He compared him to Kyle Bowler. He said he can make all the throws. Physically, he can make all the throws. But there's just something missing about the way he processes the field and his accuracy. You know, he can throw the ball through a wall, but he rarely hits the spot in the wall that he wants. And there's, you know, and he was very, you know, it's like, I know that there are a lot of people who think that he's one of those guys, but I just don't see him as being one of those guys. And I agree. I you know, I mean, I think, you know, he took a step back this year because in critical situations, he made bad decisions. And, you know, he's only going to have more of those in the NFL when everybody on the defense is fast.
I think Will Levis is one of those players that kind of shows the evolution of talent in the NFL. I think that if, you know, you put him in the NFL like 30 years ago, I think he is a great quarterback.
Hall of Famer.
You know what I mean? Like we
Mhm.
we look at him completely different. The thing is, the position has just become flooded with amazing talent. It may be the most exciting position in all of sports.
Yeah.
What it's become, and yeah, dude, you gotta feel for the dude because he is so talented. He is gifted. You
Oh
know
my
what I mean? Like
goodness, yeah.
he can throw the rock.
Country
But
mile.
dude, but like against some of these people, man. Yeah, my other thing with Hendon Hooker, I think that if you're Seattle, you are hoping that he falls out of that first round and you snag him with the 37th pick. I think that is the sweet spot that if you are Seattle, you are praying that that plays out
Mhm.
because if you can sit him behind Geno Smith, oh my freaking God, I think Seattle's set. You know what I mean?
And I
Like
mean, pick 5. There's a real world scenario where they really just go and say, "I want Anthony Richardson." I could see it, and they have pick 20 too, don't they?
Let's
yes.
see. I've got
Yeah,
it
they
right
have
here.
I think
20.
they have both. I mean, yeah, there's like it's
Yeah,
like
they
a
got
almost
20.
it's like a 3-sided coin flip as to which pick they're gonna take a quarterback, but they got to take one of them. One of
I
them.
think I think Seattle benefits from being at that nice little 5 spot because you get to watch what Indy does. You get to watch Houston and Carolina. I don't think, and because with Geno Smith, I think that you're fine. Worst case scenario, let's say something crazy happens. First 4 picks are all quarterbacks. You get stuck with one. You're fine because you have Geno Smith regardless. I
Yeah.
think that if you're Seattle, quarterback wise, you are in a really good position to just kind of test the water, see what happens, and not feel like you go into the day too committed to anything. You know what I mean? I love the flexibility that Seattle has, and why wouldn't you? Because they have all the crap that the Broncos were supposed to have. So
See,
you
this
know.
kind of makes me think a little bit about the Malik Willis situation. Like, imagine if Malik Willis was put in a position where he gets drafted by a team with a solid, decently sized contract quarterback like Geno Smith, and he's not stuck with a Ryan Tannehill, and they're not put in a position where they have to put him in the game to see what he can do. If he can sit behind like Geno Smith, although he may not be the flashiest player on earth, last season, if we're just talking about last season, the guy was incredibly consistent. He didn't make bad reads. He knew where to throw the ball. And if you give a guy with a high ceiling and a low floor, like a Will Levis or Anthony Richardson or Hendon Hooker, you give Seattle one of those guys to sit behind a vet like Geno, who has gone from the bottom to the top. He's seen every ounce of football in this league. I mean, that could be heavily beneficial. That's actually where I hope that Will Levis goes, just because I want him to succeed, and that's the best place for him to go for his development.
So sitting behind Gino, who has experienced those lows and those highs and has seen it all, not unlike sitting behind Alex Smith, who was a highly touted quarterback, lost his job, then all of a sudden became good again.
And everybody doubted Patrick Mahomes when he was drafted early, said that
he
pick. And
he was not polished. He was a gunslinger, all those things. Yeah,
you know who that
there were a lot of people.
That description reminds me a lot of Mr. Levis here.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, maybe if we sit him behind a solid quarterback, Mr. Smith, and they give a year to Geno and Geno moves on, and we see the Will Levis takeover, I'll bite the bullet. I'll eat my words. I love the guy, anyways. I do. He's so much fun to watch. It's just
we're not rooting against him, by the way. Yeah, just for those of you out there listening, we're not rooting against any of these players. We're just evaluating where they fit into the landscape of the NFL.
I would never talk bad on Will Levis. I would never talk down on him. He's great.
We don't choose to talk badly about players until they get drafted to Vegas. And then free range.
Obviously,
every first round pick to Vegas is immediately a death sentence for your football career.
Damn, dude. Yeah.
All right, so we let's move on to the defense now, because there is still half of the football field that we haven't addressed. The first defensive player taken in the draft, Will Anderson, obviously the big heavy favorite. He took a step back this year, but really only because his 2021 was so unworldly amazing. He wasn't bad this year by any stretch. He was still the best defensive player in the league. Jalen Carter, also an excellent player, paying plus 1,000 as the first defensive player off the board. Of course, he had that whole mess involving the car accident there with the Georgia football team that claimed 2 lives. Carter is a terrific talent. And I don't want to judge anybody by a mistake that was made when they were, 21 years old. I hope that GMs don't, they actually talk to the young man, interview him, find out what he's about. He's an incredible talent. Obviously, we all know that.
Everybody except for Vegas, because
yeah,
know something
absolutely.
bad's gonna happen.
Don't go to Vegas. You do not need to be in Las Vegas. They have had enough problems with car accidents out there. Tyree Wilson is one of those guys, and so this I've heard the Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson compared to last year where we had Trayvon Walker and God, it is late at night. I'm drawing a blank on the guy, the Michigan guy drafted by the Lions. Come on now. Anyway,
no, because I was about to make fun of you, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Barry Sanders.
Yes, that's the guy, Barry Sanders, the guy who was so you had Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson had all the productivity, but Trayvon Walker had these amazing stats, like physical attributes.
But then you take a look at who was more successful last year.
Right. So we're kind of in that Will Anderson versus Tyree Wilson flying up the board because of what he did at the combine. And people are he's got eye-popping physicality. And it's not that he was not productive at Texas Tech. He just wasn't nearly as productive as Will Anderson. But if there's anybody who could challenge Will Anderson for that top spot, it could be Tyree Wilson. But I think everybody agrees it's going to be defensive lineman, one of these 3 guys.
Yeah. I think a sneaky pick out of these 6 guys to be one of the best in this draft class is Lucas Van Ness. I know he's at plus 10,000 right now, but I mean, this guy, first of all, he's young. He was only his sophomore season. From Iowa, he's like 6'5", 270, and he's a freak. He really is. I mean, you watch him play. He not only is a very good decision maker, but like he gets down the line real fast. He's fundamentally sound. Like he's a plug and play type of player. He's going to be consistent. His floor is high, and as much as Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, like you can see them becoming like all pro. Lucas Van Ness is going to be a guy that gets you like 9 to 10 sacks every season his career. I think Lucas Van Ness, he's one of my favorite players in the whole draft.
Tommy watches
film. And apparently, Tommy watches Iowa film. How many Iowa Hawkeyes now have you been touting? You are.
Well, at this point, it's quite a few.
You are on the Iowa Hawkeye train. Do you ever
Porta,
vacation? You vacation in Iowa City?
Oh, maybe I do. Who knows? I'm going to transfer.
Shout out to Iowa City. Great place. Lived there.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time there. I've been there.
Never
before.
been. You and your non-East Coast assholes.
Wow. It's actually the East Coast are filled with the assholes.
We got everybody. We got Boston, we got New York City, we got Philly, we got Pittsburgh, and then we got all of Florida.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah. Now I'll stay on this side of the Mississippi River. Thank you. Okay. First defensive player drafted. It's more than likely going to be Will Anderson. First linebacker drafted, Drew Sanders. He was a middle linebacker transferred from Alabama to Arkansas. He is the favorite at minus 125. And Jack Campbell from Iowa, he is second on this list at plus 130. And Trenton Simpson out of Clemson is more of a hybrid. They play him outside. They play him at safety. He's kind of in the box, moving around. But one of these 3 guys is predicted to be the first linebacker taken.
They might be the first taken, but they're not. None of them are first rounders.
Yeah, no. This is a linebacker class. It's not terribly exciting. Although Dan Henley, I was reading about, he actually began his collegiate career as a wide receiver at Nevada. That didn't work out so well, so he transferred to Washington State and became a linebacker and became quite a good one. So I think he's interesting. Noah Sewell is Penei Sewell's brother. He actually started off as a defensive tackle And then they moved him. He was a bit undersized as a defensive tackle. Now he's a bit oversized as a middle linebacker, about 265 pounds. And my favorite is Henry 2020, just because it's fun to say. He was middle linebacker for the Crimson Tide this year. Not a great linebacker class. And again, linebackers are kind of becoming a forgotten position, just like running backs. You want edge rushers. You want good, solid lockdown corners. Whatever happens on the second level of the defense is not nearly as important as what happens at the line and in the secondary.
I'm trying to think because I definitely watched some sort of, I know it's going to sound bad because it's Iowa, Jack Campbell film at some point, just because I was watching Iowa and he happened to pop up. But he's nothing spectacular, but I swear he had one crazy game where he had like 12 tackles or something.
Well, Campbell's I think he ran like a 4.6. He's not terribly fast, which is, but for a guy who you want to be in there stuffing the run, he's a very sure tackler. He racked up the tackles.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. When he played against Kentucky, he had 10 tackles, 2 TFLs, and a sack. So
yeah, he's probably a 2-down linebacker.
That might have been when I was watching Will Levis film.
I really like Drew. Yeah. I really like Drew Sanders. I think that I was watching some of his tape earlier. There is some of the team that gets him. That fan base, when they look at his tape, they're gonna be like, oh, some of those hits are fun.
Yeah,
he's really athletic dude, flying all over the field. This class leaves a lot to be desired, but I still think there's gonna be some really fun players that I think could emerge from here.
Ben watches film.
Not as much as Tommy, though.
Sanders moving from Alabama to Arkansas really allowed him to blossom, and he did turn into quite a football player this last year. All right. First defensive back drafted. It's down to 2 guys, Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois or Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. Both of them are excellent cover corners. You guys watched any film of these two?
Yes. I love
Devin Witherspoon is a dog. Witherspoon is a dog, man.
Witherspoon is insane, but it's kind of crazy because a lot of people think that Christian Gonzalez is going to go like well before him in the draft.
Yeah, I've seen that in mock
drafts. These odds shock me. These odds shock me. Yeah,
they do. And Joey Porter.
Just to say, for those of you who are not watching but actually listening, Devin Witherspoon is minus 200 to be the first defensive back drafted. Christian Gonzalez at plus 155. Please tell us about Joey Porter Jr.
Joey Porter Jr. I love him, first of all. I think, and also plus 3,000 is a huge stretch for him because, I mean, if we say, like, hypothetically, we say Christian Gonzalez goes first and most are projecting him to go top 15, maybe even top 10. But like Devin Witherspoon and Joey Porter are like neck and neck in most draft boards. Like, one pick after the other almost. And I think, in the CBS draft that I was talking about before, I think they are literally directly after each other. And Joey Porter, Penn State, I mean, the dude, his footwork and his hips, like I'm huge. Like when I watch the combine, I love to watch when they do the drill where, they go like the ball goes, oh, and they're flipping their hips. And like the fluidity in Joey Porter is going to be what makes him good in the NFL.
Yes, the same traits that make a good person, a good flamenco dancer, makes them a very good cornerback in the NFL. Not enough people have focused on that, I think, over the years.
Not enough. Nobody.
Not enough, yeah. All right, those are the end of our defensive players, but we have a few specialty props, and I'm excited for these. So these are which team will be drafting these particular players. We've talked about Anthony Richardson. He is projected to go in the top 5. The Colts right now are the favorite to pick him, plus 200. Tennessee Titans at plus 300. The Seahawks, people like the Seahawks to grab him at plus 550. What do you guys think about Anthony Richardson? And I'm sorry, we've got those are not his numbers. He was not 17-7 as a starter at Kentucky. Those are Will Levis's numbers. Let's go back to Anthony Richardson for a second and ignore what's written underneath his picture. There was a breakdown in transferring that over. Anyway, Anthony Richardson out of Florida. And what do you guys think? Do you like him with the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, I think it's a change of pace for what we've seen from the Colts historically. I mean, especially their last couple. I mean, we're talking their last few years. It's been Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. Not a very diverse group of guys. Very cookie cutter quarterbacks. But
And
I
each
mean,
one of those things were failures. So
I mean, if they want to go outside the box and get something that's outside of their usual, game plan, Richardson's their guy. I'm a huge fan of that. But I don't really know about Tennessee being 2, because I think that with Indianapolis at 4 and Seattle at 5, like plus 550 does seem like pretty nice. I think that Tennessee is a little bit unrealistic.
Oh, see, Tennessee's drafting 11. They would need to trade up to get.
Yeah, and I just don't see them really going so crazy for him after they just drafted a high-profile quarterback last year.
Yeah, fair enough.
So my question would be like, or not my question. I guess like for me, it's Indianapolis is going to take the best quarterback on the board at 4. I think is kind of that mindset. So the question here is who's more likely to trade up, if anybody. I really like the Colts to take him with the 4 pick, but honestly, looking at these teams, kind of looking at the order, kind of just thinking about situations, I kind of, for my second team, if I was going to throw a little money around, I kind of like the Raiders. I think the Raiders need to get a quarterback cheap on a rookie deal. I think that sitting right now at the 7th spot they can put together a decent package to move up with Arizona at that 3 spot and take them there. I don't know. I could see Vegas doing something crazy like that. That kind of seems like the Vegas way.
But also, it seems very Vegas to just not draft a quarterback and rock with Jimmy G.
Yeah, it's really. Does Josh McDaniels feel like that? I mean, he knows Jimmy G well from the time in New England. Does he feel like that he's got his guy? I mean, or is Mark Davis in his ear saying we need a quarterback? One thing I would say is if Richardson and Levis fall to the Colts, it would be the most Jim Irsay thing ever to draft Levis over Richardson. So I would not put that beyond the Colts at all.
I don't either at all. I was actually thinking about that because Will Levis definitely it just fits the mold,
Well, let's actually go to Will Levis. The team to draft Will Levis, the Colts are right up there at plus 350. The Raiders at plus 290. They are actually the favorite to draft Will Levis, and probably because they think that the top 3 guys will already be off the board and Levis will be available for them at 7. Then you've got the Titans and the Buccaneers, both at plus 600. I kind of hope he goes to the Raiders because I think he becomes another Jeff George. Not quite as bad as Jamarcus Russell. I think he'll be more successful than that. But again, Jeff George, a guy who could throw the ball a country mile, but had just his football IQ was not there. And
what I want from Will Levis
is a smart guy, so I'm not. But football wise, he's not.
I want another Jay Cutler. That's what we need, another Jay Cutler personality. I mean, have you seen the clips of Will Levis on social media? He is just the stereotypical frat boy. Like, he is such a frat boy. I mean, he puts mayo in his coffee. He eats the banana with the peel while it's brown. Like, this guy's just like Vegas seems like the perfect fit. He'll fit in just perfect with Josh McDaniel and Jimmy Garoppolo. That quarterback room and that coaching staff it would be comical.
Call me crazy. I have him going 11th to the Tennessee Titans. I think that he kind of fits that kind of scheme that they want to do, just kind of run heavy. You don't necessarily have to rely on him. I don't think that they're too big on Willis, and I think rightfully so. And to be honest with you, the way that Willis dropped, you don't really feel too bad if you move on this quickly, or at least bring in some competition, because the investment, I think, was much lower than what anyone thought it would be for him. So Yeah, I personally have Levis in like my mock draft that's somewhat complete, going 11th to Tennessee, uh, but also I have heard other people talking about possibly the Bucks just moving up for him, and could I could conceivably see that. I don't know if it's something that I would bet on. But yeah, no, I think that Will Levis is definitely like this big question mark that the rest of the draft is going to be kind of surrounded, kind of if he goes early, it kind of changes the ebbs and flow of the round going, and if not, is anyone going to move up for him? So, yeah.
I could see him going to Tennessee, but I am very I don't know what it is, but there's something in my brain that just knows that Tennessee is drafting O-line at 11. Something in me. I could see that.
I could easily see that too.
Well, they just lost Taylor Lewan, so
They need a tackle.
they've got a hole there. All right, the team to draft Hendon Hooker. We all talked about how much we like Hendon Hooker. The Minnesota Vikings are the favorite at plus 850. I would love it to see. He gets to sit behind Kirk Cousins for a year. We all just were talking about let him sit behind people, hang out, learn, be that student of the game. And he's got a great offensive minded head coach there in Minnesota. Obviously, to have Hendon Hooker throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson would be a lot of fun to watch. I like it. Detroit Lions also number 2 there at plus 1,000. Where do you guys like to see Hendon Hooker go?
Either of those top 2. I don't like any of the teams after that for him. I think if you put Hendon Hooker, maybe, and this don't take this out of context because I would never wish it on anybody, but maybe the injury was beneficial in his placement in this draft. Because if you're a late first round pick, there is still teams that need a quarterback up next. And you put him behind mid Cousins and you give him an incredible wide receiver core. And just imagine that Vikings team with Hendon Hooker at his full potential at quarterback. We're no more primetime L's. We're seeing a legitimate 13-4 team, not a fluke loses against the spread every goddamn week. We're talking about one of the best teams in football, and even with Detroit, I mean, I love Jared Goff. I will always root for him, but come on, think about it. Just imagine in your brain, close your eyes and visualize Hendon Hooker wearing, I don't know, number 5 in a Vikings uniform, just hucking it downfield. Just sounds incredible. It's like a dream come true. It's like a football movie.
Well, I already said earlier, I like him going to Seattle in that second round, early in the second. I will not lie to you. The prospects of seeing this man playing in Detroit has got me excited. Oh my goodness!
I think we just love Detroit.
Last year, you guys saw me just jump on. We all jumped on this bandwagon. Oh my goodness! Can you imagine the silver helmet, just Hendon Hooker? Oh my goodness, that would make me so excited. I don't know if that's realistic at all whatsoever. I do think that the Colts might actually be a little bit more likely than some might think. If Peyton Manning's watching, he'd be like, hey, whispering in the ears of the higher ups there. Who knows, man? Peyton Manning was in the odds to be a coach at one point, so who knows what's going on with the Colts nowadays? But yeah, no, I like him to either the Seahawks or my heart wants him to go to Detroit, but my brain says probably Seattle in the second.
Yes,
Hendon Hooker in the NFL just makes me grin ear to ear. Just the possibilities are endless with this guy.
All right. Team to draft Jackson Smith-Njigba. Texans favorites at plus 450. I would assume that they're talking about that 12th pick overall, where that's where they would grab him. They're certainly not going to take him at 2, but maybe they trade back. But I think it's the 12th pick that they would grab him, or the Bears giving Justin Fields another weapon. He just grabbed the Panthers wide receiver in that trade, and was it Moore? Or the Patriots plus 900, as are the Packers. Those are the top 4 teams. Obviously, he didn't play at all this last year, but boy, did he begin 2022 off 347 yards at the Rose Bowl, then out all of this last year with an injury. Where do you guys like this guy?
I like Houston. I like Green Bay. I like Baltimore just for the teams. And of course, I like Chicago. Just, I think Chicago would benefit from him. But, like, there's a team that's not on this list that I think would heavily benefit from him. And I know they just drafted a wide receiver in the first round just last year. But Atlanta, with that. No,
they have the 8th pick. They have the 8th pick, so they would.
If they really want to ride with Ritter, because they've been talking about how they love him and how he's going to start next year and stuff. I've heard on and off about the Ritter potential. If you give him one last piece, they have Kyle Pitts. I think that he can be more utilized with Ritter. I think that with Drake London, being that red zone threat, that jump ball kind of guy. And then you get like a possible number 2, but really a number 1 kind of guy with Jackson going in and tearing up defenses. That could be a deadly offense.
Yeah, I mean, you got London, the big guy on the outside. Smith-Njigba has been fantastic in the slot. And then you get Kyle Pitts coming back healthy. And then obviously you've got a terrific running game already there. You can make up for the fact that Desmond Ritter is perhaps a 2nd tier, maybe 3rd tier quarterback by giving him enough weapons around him.
God, Chicago would love him. I don't think it's smart whatsoever unless you're only thinking about ticket prices and stuff like that. Which not going to lie to you, Chicago's ownership is 100% thinking about constantly. But do you know the last time the Chicago Bears fans were excited about the offense? 2018, for a year, with Mitchell Trubisky, who made it to the Pro Bowl on some fluke. But, oh, yeah, no. That's great.
Ben, did you hear yourself there? Hey, we might have lost Ben.
That was so great. Oh my goodness. It's just like a voice modifier turned on.
Our rabbit of the Peter Rabbit there weighing in. You'll have to play this back, Ben, because that was fantastic voice modulation going on there.
It was quite funny. And the worst part was you're making such good points and everything you were saying was totally logical, but I just couldn't take it seriously.
I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to what you said.
That's going on the TikTok.
Have we lost you? Are you still there? Oh, I think we have a technical issue with Ben. He cannot hear us. So the fun thing is as his cords were going out.
There we go.
Here we go. Oh my goodness.
You sound like yourself. No.
Hey, you know what? That's that Chicago internet. They know the freaking Buzz family knows that I'm saying some bad stuff.
You said the word Bears, and then all of a sudden you sounded like you'd sucked about a gallon of helium.
Yeah, they got me. They got me good.
But welcome back.
No, okay, I didn't. Just the Bears were excited for the offense for 1 year back in 2018 with Mitchell Trubisky, made it to the Pro Bowl on a fluke, and before that, when they were excited, like when the invention of the T formation. Okay, so like the Bears would love to capitalize on some offensive excitement here. I think team building wise, you probably should stay away from drafting a wide receiver right now. I think you probably cover your bases, but that would be exciting. That'd be fun.
All right. Quentin Johnson, wide receiver out of TCU, projected to go top 12. He's thought to be the second wide receiver after Smith-Njigba. Baltimore Ravens are the favorites at plus 700. That, I updated these odds. That includes the post Odell Beckham Jr. signing for way more money than they should have. Minnesota Vikings at plus 800. They need a replacement for Adam Thielen. He'd be quite a replacement. Although the Vikings don't pick until quite late in the first round, so they would have to move up. The Patriots at plus 800, the Packers plus 900. These are all teams that could benefit from a wide receiver, and everybody believes that he is a good one. First team all Big 12 2 years in a row. What do you guys think of Quentin Johnston?
I'm a huge fan. Well, first of all, as a player, I'm a huge fan. I think he's going to succeed in the league, but I think that him going to the Ravens would be the most fun, seeing as they just signed Odell for way too much money, but they were in dire need of a receiver, and I'm assuming that the Jets probably offered him close to that much money, and they had to up it to get him, and they need him more, so it makes sense. And then if you pair him with like a really young prospective receiver, I think Baltimore could do really good things, and it'd probably be incentive. They draft a receiver early; it'd be incentive for Lamar to come, take a little pay cut.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's got people to throw to, so that'd be fun.
I like New England. I think that he could slot in well into the New England offense. It gives you some kind of faith that maybe they're gonna be a little bit more productive the next year on the offensive side. But yeah, I don't know. I could see him going. I could see him going to any of these teams.
Little Juju and Johnston catching passes from Bailey Zappi. I could see that. That would be fun.
It'd be fun, right?
Yeah. Down with it. Team to draft Bijan Robinson, Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers, the favorites at plus 600. Both of those teams, of course, don't pick until late in the first round. Let me get the exact numbers. Chargers pick 21st. The Cowboys pick 26th. Does Robinson go higher than that, though? The Washington Commanders plus 750. The Bengals, they lost P. Ryan to the Broncos, and they've got some other issues some legal issues with the rest of their backfield. So perhaps Robinson goes there. Of course, they would have to probably move up in the draft. This guy, he's a great talent, absolutely terrific talent, as we already talked about. Who do you think that he should? I don't want him to go to the Cowboys because I really want to see Tony Pollard be the guy. So I'm rooting for him to go somewhere else, just so that not because I want to see Robinson play for somebody else. I just want to see Pollard. Where do we think that he lands?
Los Angeles. I think that with Austin Eckler's situation, he is a perfect replacement for Eckler. He can do everything that Eckler does. I don't want him to go to Dallas for the same reasons. I think if Tony Pollard is not splitting touches with Zeke, he could be one of the better running backs in the NFL. He's shown statistically that as a second or even splitting first team reps, he is going for 1,000-yard seasons and playing out of his mind. So you give him the reins and it's boom. We're going to see a 1,500-yard season from this guy. And then you go to Los Angeles, he's going to be catching the ball out of the backfield, and he is a more than capable downhill runner when need be. I think that Bijan would thrive in LA.
Yeah, my gut says he's going to end up in Dallas. I don't want that to happen, but yeah.
You just hate Tony Pollard, man.
I just
hang on his downfall.
I could see them moving up for it too.
Yeah. All right, Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. Cincinnati Bengals, Dallas Cowboys, Buffalo Bills, and the Kansas City Chiefs, all at plus 700 for Jahmyr Gibbs. He's not going to be a Chief. I can prompt. The Chiefs are not drafting a running back in the first round. They did that with Clyde Edwards-Helaire a couple of years ago. It has not gone well. There's no way the Chiefs are drafting him. So who might draft Jahmyr Gibbs?
Not Buffalo. Not Buffalo.
Who
they just get? They
just drafted a Cook brother. So
and then they get they just got another player.
One of the guys from the Patriots. What's his face?
Damien Harris.
Damien Harris, yes.
James Cook, Damien Harris. Those are two serviceable backs. They
don't need a running back.
They're not.
Again, the Bengals do. The Cowboys. To be fair, the last time we saw Tony Pollard, he was leaving the field injured. I
could see him going to Cincy.
He's gonna go late first round where the Bengals are picking.
Yeah.
So it is certainly possible, and he's a very good. He's a fast guy. He's got good hands. I think he's going to be an excellent running back in the NFL. But yeah, so the Bengals at plus 700. I'd put $10 down on that. Chance to win 70. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Team to draft Jalen Carter. The Detroit Lions. Look, they're drafting what are they, sixth? They're drafting sixth. If he falls to 6, which he very well could be because of all the quarterbacks going early, he's a stud. He's an absolute stud and would be great on that defensive line. You got Hutchinson on the outside. You got Jalen Carter, just wreaking havoc in the middle of that line. The Detroit defense, which has struggled all of a sudden, not a bad front there with these guys. And young. This is a front that grows together, and you build a team around.
But what about the Javon Hargrave replacement?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Eagles are there at plus 600, and he obviously, the Eagles. Again, I'm drawing a blank on the guy, the tackle from Georgia last year that the Eagles drafted, who's one of the reasons why they felt they could let Hargrave go is because of their draft last year, adding another Georgia tackle. Georgia is just a factory for defensive studs. They had 5 defensive players go in the first round last year. Be interested to see how many they get this year. But Carter is the man, and he's quite good. So any of those teams, the Bears also could grab him at 9.
I think he goes to Chicago.
You think he goes to Chicago?
I think Detroit probably looks at the secondary, even though they started making some signings and patching stuff up. There's a lot of one-year deals. I think they're probably going to try and find some youth there. I could see Gonzalez or Witherspoon going there, and then just Bears swooping up here at 9 with Jalen Carter. I feel like that's pretty clean.
Yeah, I mean the Bears obviously need help on defense.
Yeah.
So I think he'd be a good fit there too. He feels like a Chicago kind of guy as well.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett. Which round will Stetson Bennett be drafted? He's a two-time national champion offensive MVP, 29-3 as a starter in college. This last year, he threw for over 4,100 yards and 37 TDs. Those are Georgia records. Hey, Georgia's had some pretty good quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford, not a bad Georgia quarterback. Where does Stetson Bennett go? The odds-on favorite right now is the 6th round. Two-time national champion going in the 6th round, plus 250. 7th round is plus 300, or not drafted at all at plus 500. Would you guys take a chance on Stetson Bennett?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing he's only going to be a backup, you're not drafting Stetson Bennett to be a future starter in the league. You're drafting him as a backup quarterback. He does know how to win. Not a backup quarterback for you.
He's football smart, but not street smart or logical. Doesn't have much critical thinking skills off the field.
Chad Kelly was a draft pick, okay? Stetson Bennett will be drafted, okay? If Chad Kelly was able to get drafted, okay? Now, mind you, it was by a very dumb Broncos team, but the man was still drafted. Yeah, I think that someone goes out there and drafts a 2-time national champion. I think that why not? And at the very least, it's at least some clicks on some headlines, right? It's going to get more media attention than whoever else you're going to draft with your 6th or 7th round. I feel
he will sell some preseason tickets.
So I just feel like you just gotta someone's going to take him, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's going to be drafted at some point. He's not going to be drafted in the 3rd round.
No.
But 6th or 7th round, absolutely. Look, I would if the Chiefs drafted him in the 7th round, I would not be unhappy. Take a flyer on the guy. The guy's a winner. He's played in massively big games, and he's played well in those big games. So why not?
I just can't believe that at the very least, once you get down to Mr. Irrelevant, that there's going to be some other, person that you would take over Stetson. You know what I mean? At the very worst, with the last pick, is there truly someone else that you're like, oh man, we really got to get? You know what I mean? Aren't you just kind of like, kind of careless at that point? Whatever.
If some bum quarterback out of Iowa State can be drafted,
Yeah, exactly.
then Stetson Bennett can certainly be
Brock
drafted in the
Purdy
7th
was
round.
not a 2-time national champion. Okay, he wasn't even
Yeah.
a Big 12 champion.
Yeah,
so
well, he's
let's
not-
just.
He's not getting drunk and banging on people's doors and screaming in the middle of the night either.
Oh,
is
come
he?
on. He's a college
Yeah.
student.
He's not. He's
Gee,
barely even eligible to be a college student. He's goddamn
you haven't done
25
that in
years
college
old,
past
acting like
the
a
first
child.
stone.
This sounds like an average Thursday night for me, Tommy.
It's,
I don't know what we're.
between you and Stetson
Tommy,
Bennett
you're-
is that Stetson Bennett has millions of people watching him, and you cannot make those kind of mistakes.
Your school it sounds like it's not any fun at all.
I make it
gotta
fun.
be honest.
I am the party.
All right. Well, Stetson Bennett is the last of our special props. One last graphic to get to. These are the 17 players who will be in Kansas City. We've got 4 quarterbacks: C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will
that's
Levis,
sad.
Anthony Richardson. Those are your 4 QBs that'll be there. Jordan
Poor Will
Addison,
Levis.
wide receiver out of USC, Zay Flowers, Boston College, and wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba. Bijan Robinson, the only running back who has been invited to Kansas City. Paris Johnson, also the only offensive lineman to be invited. I'm a little surprised that Skoronski wasn't asked to come. He's certainly going to be a first rounder. Will Anderson, Keon White from Georgia Tech, and Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech are your 3 edge rushers who've been invited. Jalen Carter, the lone defensive tackle. And then your 4 defensive backs: Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter Jr., Devin Witherspoon, and Brian Branch, the safety from Alabama. Those are the 17 players. And so I get that they don't want the embarrassment of a guy sitting in the green room and not getting selected in the first round. So they've limited it to just 17 players, but I do feel like they missed some pretty obvious first round picks there.
Yeah, they also miss on the fact that if they don't want guys to be sitting there in the green room after the first round, they're going to be real disappointed when Will Levis is still sitting there.
No, wait. That is a genius move from the agent. You know how many GMs have the TV on and just see this guy just sitting in the green room? He's just like, oh, man, this isn't working out. They'll be like, come on, we got to throw this guy a bone. The whole world's watching. I think that's a smart move. You got to get some emotional heartstrings. That's why you aren't representing the boy. I'll tell you what, Tommy. You got to think on your feet in the sports agency world. You got to be creative.
Yeah, well, Will Levis is going to be thinking on his ass in the green room when the 32nd pick comes around, so I don't think we need to worry about him.
Hey, he'll have plenty of time to watch tape.
All right. Well, that is it for us. We have broken down the best bets for the NFL draft. A reminder, it begins April 27th. It will last for 3 days. It is taking place in Kansas City, Missouri. The Union Station there, downtown Kansas City, the site of the Super Bowl championship celebration, which I watch at least once a week on YouTube because I have nothing better to do with my life, and it makes me happy. Guys, we are going to be back in May, right? We agree. We're going to be back in May to break down the draft, see then where teams stand after they've gone through free agency, they've added all their rookies, which teams we expect to do well in 2023, and which teams will be the Arizona Cardinals. I think I can't wait for the draft. I know Tommy is going to be watching the offensive linemen. And between now and after the draft, of course,
Tommy
he's going to watch some film for us.
Only Iowa, though.
Only Iowa. He's a big Hawkeye. So Iowa Hawkeye Athletic Department, if you would like to sponsor NFL points, picks, and props, please reach out to us. We would be happy to throw a Hawkeye logo up on our screen. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody who has tuned in this evening or whatever time of day you have chosen to watch or to listen to us, remember, you can follow us on Twitter, NFL_PPP. You can follow us on TikTok, NFL_PPP. And of course, we have our YouTube show and our YouTube channel, which is NFL_PPP. We have tried to make it as easy as possible. For Tommy Birch out in the great state of you're in Massachusetts now, not in Connecticut. He's from Connecticut. He is in Massachusetts. Ben O'Connell, who is from Kansas, he is in Chicago, Illinois. Kyle Garlett, I am also from Kansas, but I am in Denver, Colorado. And we thank you so much for joining us. Happy drafting.
Packers trade up and draft Will Levis. Watch it.
Book it.